Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an Airbus pilot, and welcome to a route that many of you have been asking for a long time. Today we're going to fly the LATAM Airbus A319 from Rio de Janeiro's Santos Dumont airport, which has only 1,300 meters of runway, which is therefore probably the shortest runway that A319s operate into, and we're going to take it over to Sao Paulo's Congonhas airport, which with 1,800 meters isn't exactly a long runway either. This is going to be an interesting one, so join me on board of our Airbus A319 as we are going to prepare for today's flight. And here we are, so let's go ahead and get the airplane going. We'll start as always with the engine master levers off, mode selector norm, weather radar off, landing gear lever down, the wipers are off and the battery voltage is 25.5 each. Then we can turn the external power unit on, and while the airplane is powering up, let's go ahead and start setting up our lights, making sure that they're all on, and the same applies for you down here. Alright, now let's head over into the electronic flight bag and start importing our flight plan. So we are leaving at 12:45 and silly me has of course forgotten to set the correct time, so let's just set 12:45 over here, so something like this to ensure an on-time departure. Okay, lovely, so the time is set, and then looking at the weather chart, we've got completely clear significant weather charts. A little bit of headwind though from that jet stream. I'm not going to bother with the NOTAMs, and looking into the weather, Santos Dumont gives us light rain, broken overcast clouds, 21 degrees on QNH 1019er, and our destination Congonhas has not that nice weather as well. Broken clouds, light drizzle, overall fantastic weather for flying. Our alternate in Sao Paulo Guarulhos, which is the large Sao Paulo airport, is quite okay for IFR operations. So departing at 12:45, we are going to arrive 10 minutes ahead of schedule in Congonhas. The weights are not critical, cruising in flight level 300, and then going down to the fuel section. Let's decide on our fuel quantity, and I'd say there is no reason to take extra. 5.5 tons sounds superb to me. So let's go down into the mass and balance. For the fuel, we are going to load 5,500 kilos like this, and then we can apply that and load the aircraft, use GSX for everything, and yeah, then we are ready to continue our flight deck setup. So the computers have all started now, so let's go ahead and start with our overhead panel, where we can do the APU fire test, which is looking good. Then the ADRs 1, 2 and 3 are going in a nav mode. Then looking down here, we are gonna stick with the frequencies as they are for the time being, but let's make sure not to blast our ears with those speakers like this. Fantastic. Okay, then let's head down into the Atsu, and down here we are going to import the flight like this, in progress, and while that's ongoing, let's head back into the EFB, do our preliminary takeoff calculation. So we got Santos Dumont, runway 20 left, wet, synchronize the preliminary load sheet and the weather, and then let's hit calculate, and okay, that thing is a little bugged then, because I know that it can take off at this weight. But okay, if the Phoenix EFB tells us no, then let's go over into the SimBrief calculator, because that one most definitely tells us yes. So here it is, and then we got takeoff performance. We are going to take this right from here. For the takeoff weight, let's give it 60 tons, just to be on the safe side here, and the bleeds are going to be off. Calculate, and this one tells us config 3 takeoff, full toga, 13, 16, 23, and 3 meter stop margin with a runway limit at 64 tons. Okay, so that does look good to me. Then we can take those values. Now let's move on into the charts, and we are going to use Navigraph charts for today's departure. So ground charts are selected, parking gates are selected, and for our departure we are leaving via the FCOX to Foxtrot departure, and that's this one. Okay, fantastic. So with that, the entire departure is selected, and then we can go ahead and move right back into our cockpit preparation. So the flight init is here, that's fantastic. Then let's also get some weather, SBRJ, just in case it has changed since our planning stage. And then let's have a look into what we got. Starting with the first load sheet, edition number 1 is not really necessary because we have an edition number 2. And here it is. So TOM 3901 from SDU to CGH on the Tango Mike Charlie, and that is our aircraft indeed. 2 pilots, 3 cabin crews. The weights are all looking good, and we are 4.6 tons under load, limited by takeoff, by maximum takeoff weight. 144 passengers, so we are completely full in this configuration. Also full water and fuel in tank 5,500. That's all looking fantastic. And for the weather, 22082. Clouds 21 QNH 1019er. So let's go ahead and stick with that. And that's set on both sides. Alright, fantastic. Then we got an A319 with a V2500 engine. The nav database is up to date. Then we can request that performance initialization. And while we're waiting for that, let's go ahead and do the recall. See what we have. Nothing stored, that's fantastic. Then the oxygen is sufficient for the flight, the hydraulics are good, the oil quantity is good, the flaps are up and the spoiler is retracted. Both of those do agree with the lever. Then let's release the parking brake, do the alternate brake test, and that is looking good, and the parking brake is set again. Okay, fantastic. So with that we've finished our preliminary cockpit preparation. Now I'd say, since it is pretty wet outside, we'll let our first officer go for the walk around. And we are just going to get started with the cockpit preparation procedure. So refueling is still in progress. We don't need an APU just yet. Let's test the batteries. Okay, and they are charging just fine. Good. Alright, engine fire test is looking good on engine number 1 and looking good on engine number 2. Okay, the right side is all set, the main panel is all set. It's the 3rd of May today, and that is correct. Down here everything is set, in the middle everything's set, on the right side everything is set. Okay, then let's go ahead and start with our FMS. So flight number is gonna be TOM 3901, cost index 20, cruise level 300. Okay. Our departure is from runway 20 left, 1,300 meters of runway available. FCOX to Foxtrot departure, like this, and that is going to be with a NAXOP transition. Enter, and in Congonhas we are landing on 17 right with the ILS Yankee approach, 1,880 meters available. Octal to Alpha arrival, like this, and we are coming from Ibdal. So let's take that transition. Then a quick look into the plan tells us that we do not need any approach via. So let's select no via, and that's it. Insert. Okay, secondary flight plan, copy the active. We are basically going to follow the RMP set out of here until we are clear of the terrain, and once we're clear, just out to the water. We'll get back to that in the briefing. That's also the reason why we're not going to enter anything in our fix pages today. Okay, so let's go ahead and get that load sheet once again. So we got a zero fuel weight of 53.9. And the forecast center of gravity is 27.5, like this. Fuel 5.5. Then let's see. Wind component average 47 knots headwind. So contingency 0.3, alternate 1.9, and final 1000. That is looking good. Okay, for the takeoff, config 3, full toga, and yeah, the AFB couldn't calculate it, so quick check of SimBrief, 13, 16, 23. Okay, like this. Now let's go ahead and cross-check our departure. You can give me daylight charts, please. Or actually, no, that's a little bright. Okay, so, straight at via Romeo Juliet 006 above 400, Romeo Juliet 076. And in here we got 006 above 400, then we have 076, then we continue via 078, maximum 150 knots above 1,400 feet, that's looking good, and then we continue towards FZOP, FCOX between 5 and 8, and we got that one, and then via TIV Road, and then we got Azov above 240 and Naxop, and that's all looking fantastic. Alright, so initial climb, is there anything on here? Nope, there isn't. Ready to fix is required, transition altitude 7000, that's all copied. Okay, noise abatement procedure number 2 over here. However, I am going to increase the acceleration to 1,400 feet, just to make sure that we are actually going to meet that altitude restriction. Okay, in case of an immediate return, we are going to fly to the other Rio de Janeiro airport, which is going to be SBGL, and that's it for the time being. So then everything's set up down there, everything is set up over here. Let's just pre-select 8,000. No idea if we're actually gonna get that, but we'll talk to ATC in a moment. And then we got actual numbers anyway. Okay, fantastic. So everything is set up over here. We can remove that message as well. Looks like boarding is already completed and refueling is as well. So we are gonna switch all that stuff on, and then we can also start the APU. Alright, and doors are all closed. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning from the flight deck. This is your captain speaking. My name is Emmanuel, and in the name of LATAM Airlines, I would like to welcome you all on board of our Airbus A319. We have just finished our loading, and we are now finishing up the last paperwork. When that is done, we are going to start the engines, taxi out runway 20 left for departure towards the Atlantic Ocean. Now, the flight time is going to be approximately 45 minutes, expecting a smooth ride in 30,000 feet altitude, approximately 9,000 meters. For the time being, sit back, relax, and enjoy, and we are going to get back to you with the latest weather when we start the approach in the Congonhas. Alright, so these guys are handled. Then let's go ahead and have a look into the final load sheets. Okay, so load sheet in compliance with edition number 2, 53.9, and that's checked with a center of gravity at 27.5 is also checked. Takeoff CG 26.4. We can accept this, and 26.4 is roughly here, so up trim 1.3. Okay, fantastic. So that's all in, and that's all checked. I like it. Then let's go ahead and grab our departure clearance. So, ATIS 13265.
Ogress, expect delays in that area. Advise on initial contact, you have information Papa. Santos Dumont Airport, information Papa. 1900 Zulu.
So 8 is
Driving
Papa.
and departing runways 20 left, 20 right. Wind 190 at 8. Visibility 2. Rain, mist. Broken at 1200, overcast at 3500. Temperature 21, dew point 20. QNH 1019er. Transition level 80.
Okay, so the Aegis is on board. Then let's get our IFR clearance, which is 12105. And Aegis Papa. Clear clearance, TOM 3901, information, Papa request IFR clearance to Congonhas. That's a little quiet.
TAM 3901, clear to Congonhas via the Fox 2 Foxtrot departure, then as filed, runway 20 left, initial climb to 4000, departure on 119.2 squawk 2621.
TOM 3901 is clear to Congonhas via the Corp 2 Foxtrot departure, runway 20 left, climb 4000, departure 119.2, squawk 2621. 4000, 20 left, FCOP 2 Foxtrot.
Read back correct. Contact ground on 121.7.
121.7, TOM 3901. Okay, so 19.2, let's put that down here as a reminder. And then 2621. Okay, so squawk machine is on, and then we can do the checklists, and then we're ready to go. So, cockpit preparation checklist. Gear pads and covers removed. Fuel quantity 5,500 kilogram balanced. Seatbelt signs on. ADIRS, nav, and barrel ref QNH 1019R. And that's the cockpit preparation checklist complete. Okay, then let's call for Pushback. What's his call sign? Rio Ground. Okay, that's easy. Rio Ground, TOM 3901, request pushback and startup.
TOM 3901, push and start approved. Face north.
Push and start approved, facing north, TOM 3901. Okay, so facing north before start checklists. That's park and brake set, takeoff speeds and thrust, V1 113, VR 116, V2 123, and toga. Windows closed, beacon on before start checklist complete. Ground from cockpit. Please confirm that all doors and hatches are closed, ground equipment is removed, and the bypass pin is installed. That's all confirmed. Roger that, clear to push, facing north, and the park and brake is now released. Roger that, pushing to the north, stand by for engine start. Standing by.
Tripulação, portas em automático. Crosscheck confirma.
Okay then, we're ready for engine start, sequence 1 then 2. And engine 1 start. So, nice and early. What else could you wish for?
Atenção, por favor. Apresentaremos agora as informações de segurança para este avião. Observe atentamente os letreiros e avisos luminosos, assim como as instruções dadas pela tripulação. Equipamentos eletrônicos podem
Okay, pushback completed, set park and brake.
modo avião. Equipamentos que não
Parking brake set.
Caso pertença à limpeza dos assentos, antes de tirar o governo do assento, os amigos queremos ajudar. Atentos ao uso de atentos, afivelando o seu cinto de segurança. Para isso, una as pontas e ajuste ao corpo. Para abrir, puxe a parte superior.
And here's a good start on engine number 1. We're starting engine number 2. Clear 2. Engine 2 start.
É proibido fumar a bordo, inclusive cigarros eletrônicos. Manipular os detectores de fumaça dos laboratórios é proibido por lei. Para a regulagem, sua poltrona deve permanecer na posição vertical.
So there's the truck. He's got a tow bar.
Tomando o compartimento superior ou embaixo da poltrona à sua frente. Esta aeronave possui 8 saídas.
Where is he driving?
Duas na parte
Papa Bravo Sierra uniform ready to taxi.
central e duas na
Papa
parte
Papa Bravo Sierra uniform. Runway 20 right taxi via Alpha.
mais próxima poderá estar
Runway 20 right taxi via Alpha Papa Papa Bravo Sierra uniform.
Alright, that's the ramp agent and the clear signal. And we have 2 good starts, clear to disconnect, and have a good day. Bye bye.
nariz e a boca. Ajuste o elástico em volta da sua cabeça e respire normalmente. Coloque a máscara primeiro em você antes de ajudar a decolar.
Okay, that's looking fantastic.
Equipamento para auxílio flutuação está ligado à sua frente, podendo ser no seu próprio assento ou colher salva-vidas. Nossa aeronave está equipada com colher salva-vidas.
Alright, after start checklist. Anti-ice off, ecam status checked, pitch trim.
Prenda as alças na frente e ajuste a cintura.
That's 26% set, rudder trim neutral, after start checklist complete. TUM 3901, request taxi.
Indicadas no cartão de segurança do bolso na sua frente. Muito obrigado. You can find all this information in the sector of the
TAM 3901. Runway 20 left taxi via Juliet Alpha. Hold short of runway 20 right. Then Alpha.
TUM 3901, taxi to runway 20 left via Juliet Alpha, hold short 20 right.
Papa Papa Bravo Sierra
Alright, so
uniform.
straight at Juliet and Alpha to hold short of 20 right. Okay, clear on the left side, clear on the right side. Brakes off. Not enough thrust on idle, and we need a bit of power. And here we go. Brake check. Pressure 0. And flight control check. Pull up. Pull down. Neutral. Pull left. Pull right. Neutral. Rudder. Full left. Full right. And neutral. Okay. So it's basically all apron over here, so we'll be a little careful during our taxi. I've got no changes to the takeoff briefing, and whoa, there's someone departing with a Cessna in this weather? I'm not that sure if I would want to do that. For IFR flying it's absolutely fine, but for going VFR? I don't know. I mean, maybe he is flying IFR with a Cessna. Okay. So squawk is in. Radar on. Config checked. It's an interesting airport here, isn't it? Really in the middle of the city. So, just waiting for the cabin to get ready.
TAM 3901. Contact tower. on 118.7, bye-bye.
118.7, TAM 3901, bye-bye. Okay, we are not ready for departure yet, so I'm not going to call him just yet.
3901, Rio Tower, say again.
Rio Tower, TAM 3901, we are not ready for departure yet, I will call you.
TAM 3901, cross runway 20 right.
Crossing 20 right, TAM 3901. Okay, let's actually give him a call. Wouldn't do that in the real world, because they obviously know what they're doing. Okay, so we're clear to cross 20 right. Strobe lights on. The left side is clear and the right side is clear. So, looks like they are still busy. Well, let's get started on the taxi checklist. So there's flight controls checked. Ah, here they are. Flap setting, comp 3, red and predictive wind shear, on and auto, engine mode selector, norm, ECA memo, takeoff no blue, and that's the checklist complete. TAM 3901, ready for departure.
TAM 3901, runway 20 left, winds 190 at 8, cleared for takeoff.
Runway 20 left, cleared for takeoff, TAM 3901. Cabin crew, prepare for departure. Lineup checklist. Takeoff runway 20 left, full length, TCAS, Tara, PAX 1 and 2 off, lineup checklist complete. Alright then, we are definitely going to take the full runway. If we only have 1,300 meters available, we are going to make the most out of them. We're ready for rolling takeoff? Timing. So the weather radar looks okay in the departure sector.
20 left. 1,200 meters remaining.
Mantoga, SRS, auto thrust blue.
Caution, short runway.
That's intentional. Thrust set. .100 knots. Checked. V1, rotate. Positive climb. Gear up. Nav. Checked. So let's clear that mountain. You can definitely see where the 1,400 foot restriction comes from.
TAM 3901, contact departure.
Auto departure, TAM 3901. Thrust climb, auto thrust. Autopilot 1.
TAM 3901, roger. Notice destination, Alton Park, Cheltenham.
Whatever. Come on, switch it. Thanks. Departure TAM 3901, passing 2,200, climbing 4,000.
TAM 3901, Mackay departure, radar contact. Climb via the SID to flight level 240.
Climb via SID, flight level 240, TAM 3901. Okay. About 8,000 magenta, flaps 1. Whatever. Speed check, flaps 1. Okay, first pack on. Yeah, we need 10 seconds in between the packs. You're gonna get the other one. Here it is. Okay, flaps 0. Speed check, flaps 0. Alright, fantastic. That was an interesting departure. Very short runway indeed, but that's exactly the fun of it. So now things are going to get a little bit more relaxed for the next 40 minutes, and then we have another 1,800 meter runway there. Well, 500 more than what we just took off on, but you get where I'm going with that. So, small buck in the Phoenix over here. If the level off is supposed to happen there in 9 miles, then we shouldn't get 8,000 magenta. It would only turn magenta if it actually expects to level off by FCOX. If it expects a continuous climb, which it does, as we can see from the arrow, then it wouldn't go magenta. So, lovely 5,000 feet a minute here. Time 3901, any altitude restriction overhead FCOX? Speed all star, set standard. Send a cross check, passing level 73.
Time 3901, no altitude restrictions at FCOX.
Thrust, climb, open climb. Alright. He said originally climb via sit, but, I mean, we're a mile before it, so he released us. Easy going. Alright, and here we are, in the good weather. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Climb. Okay, we no longer need the chrono on the ND. We do have the ET running for that. And then we're passing 10,000. Lights off. Gonna wait a little bit with the signs, because it's still a bit turbulent over here. And then clear and copy the FMS, please. Oh yeah, nothing in there, nothing in there. Copy, and for now that's gonna be Sierra Bravo, Sierra Papa, 17 right. Okay, lovely, 192 miles to run. So yeah, it's gonna be a pretty short one indeed, but nonetheless, do sit back, relax and enjoy the flight with us, and I catch you all on the approach in Congonhas. Well guys, that was a pretty short flight so far, wasn't it? So, we are on the arrival.
Contact Curitiba Center on 124.4.
124.4, time 3901. And I suppose that's the handoff to approach over there. Center time 3901, passing 13,400, descending 5,500, information X-ray.
3901, Curitiba Center identified. Good morning.
Okay, or maybe not the approach yet. We'll find out. In any case, it's runway 17 right that's active over in Congonhas, and the weather is not as bad as it was in Rio, but you can see it outside. It's not really good either. Okay then, let's go ahead and start preparing our A319 for this approach. We've already entered everything in the FMS and checked the arrival. So just to go over the most important stuff over here, the arrival weather is a wind of 150 at 10, 15 degrees, QNH 1023. I have chosen the config full for the landing, even though we could probably do config 3 as well. But we are gonna go auto brake medium, since we are equipped with a brake fan over here. So config full is probably the better option then. For the go-around, we're climbing at 6,000, and that is also the MSA, so we are going to do an engine out acceleration at 6,000 if required. And for the fuel, 12 minutes extra are on board. The secondary is a copy of the active. Okay, now that you know what we are going to do, let's do the approach briefing. So we are approaching with an MSA of 6,000 feet via the Octal Octal 2 Alpha arrival for an ILS Yankee approach runway 17 right. The minimum is 2,790, which is 200 AGL, and the missed approach is a right turn out, climbing to an altitude of 6,000 feet. Now we've got nothing special, and we do have extra fuel worth of 12 minutes. Alright, then let's manage that descent now. Thrust idle descent, alt 9000 magenta. Okay, so the approach is going to be flight director guided, config full, maximum reverse, auto brake, actually idle reverse, auto brake medium, vacate to the right, and we have a stop margin of around, call that 400 meters. Vacate the runway to the right, no hotspots for taxiing, and I've got nothing special, I've got nothing non-standard. And for the threats, the runway is rather short at 1800 meters. So what we're gonna do to mitigate against that is to make it a touchdown that's gonna be exactly on spot. So, looking down here, slightly displaced threshold, 1883 meters, probably gonna come off at India, otherwise at Juliet, and then we taxi up to the apron. Do you have any questions or suggestions? No. Fantastic. Alright, so we're through 10,000. Lights, signs, EFIS, LS, and that's it. GPS primary, high accuracy, mode selector, norm. Alright, approach checklist please. So that's barrel ref, QNH 1023. Seatbelts on, minimum, barrow 2790. Auto brake, medium, engine mode selector, norm, approach checklist complete. Alt star, descent blue. So, a little step descent here, alt constraint. I do believe that that's because of the departures that are leaving just beneath us. Alright, so looking at the weather radar, we now have rain over the airport here as well. And look at that, there's one of those departures that I talked about. Okay, so, on the right now it's wet, and the landing weight is gonna be 57.3. What the? Why is the engine? What? Okay. Thrust lever MCT. The automatics are on. We are low enough that we don't have to worry about this. ECAM actions. Engine 1 shutdown. Engine mode selector ignition. Ignition. So let's give it a couple seconds here. Why is the speed going down to green dot anyway? That's not part of the arrival. Okay, looks like the engine is not restarting. So if no fuel leak, imbalance monitor. Let's have a look. That's looking good. And TCAS mode select the TA. TA. Okay, clear engine 1. Clear engine 1. So, land ASAP in amber. Air bleed. And that's number 1 shut off. Okay, clear bleed. And ELEC, generator 1 is offline. Clear ELEC. Status. Stop ECAM. Okay. So the one is back on managed speed. That's... nope, not gonna do that. Alright, so stand by 1 moment over here. Let's go ahead and start that APU. And then continue ECAM. So status, if performance permits, cross bleed open, and yes it does permit, so air, cross bleed open. Okay, one pack only if wing anti-ice on, Cat 3 single only. In-up systems, Cat 3 dual, engine 1 bleed, main galley, generator 1. Clear status? Okay, ecom actions complete. Mayday, 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 TAM 3901, engine failure. Okay, lateral discontinuity ahead. Let's check. The intention is to continue for the planned approach in Congonhas, TAM 3901. Okay, thrust dial open descent, alt 5500 blue, 1000 to go.
TAM 3901, continue approach, Alcatel 2 Alpha ILS, runway 17 right at Congonhas.
Expecting the ILS 17 right, TAM 3901. Okay, now what's quite interesting is despite the failure, the ECAM didn't ask us to set the engine 1 thrust lever to idle. But okay.
TAM 3901, I am extending your downwind for sequencing. Turn left heading 345 vectors for the ILS runway 17 right approach.
Heading 345, TAM 3901. Okay. Why is the vertical speed knob not responding? Okay, speed alt star. Doesn't matter. Hi, Emmanuel here. Not talking to us. RCM to interphone, RCM to interphone. Okay, hi, it's Emmanuel here. Just to let you know, our engine number 1, the left-hand engine, has failed. We are going to continue for a normal approach, but if the landing becomes a little bit itchy, then you now know why that is. I do not expect anything out of the ordinary, and this should be a normal landing. And we'll also taxi to the gate. There is no reseating of passengers required, and you have approximately 5 minutes to landing. Alright, thank you very much. So, the cabin is briefed. Now, APU is available. And that should be on... yeah, generators on. Good. I tell you one thing, guys. This was not planned. I did not intend to shut that engine down. Okay, enough of extending off downwind, please. TAM 3901, we need to turn base now.
TAM 3901, turn left heading 165 vectors for the ILS runway 17 right approach.
Turning right, heading 165, TAM 3901. He said...
3901, 11 miles from Gersu. Turn right, heading 155, descend altitude 4700 feet until established on the localizer. Cleared for the ILS runway 17 right approach, QNH 1023.
Right, heading 155, descend 4700 until established. Cleared ILS 17 right on the QNH 1023, TAM 3901. Okay. Vertical speed, alt 4700 blue. So, Gersu 350 looks roughly okay. Insert. And here we go. Centerline is extended. The vector is looking quite okay. So, then we have to calculate again. So, medium auto brake, and we have a engine shutdown only if engine fire push button pushed. That is not the case. Okay. So, looks like we have to go manual thrust to make the landing legal. And the landing weight is now 57.2. Tells us we need 3 meters more. Okay, I'm not gonna bother with that. Give me max manual figures. And here we go. Now we can land. Okay. All-star. We're cleared for the approach. Cat3 single, autopilot 1 and 2, glide slope localizer blue. Remember, Cat3 single is all we're going to get because of the engine failure, as we no longer have redundants. So the vector is below the MSA, but the terrain display clearly tells us 3.7 is the highest, so we are good. Alt. Checked. Field elevation is 2,500, so we're intercepting out at 2,200 feet above ground, so once the glide slope comes alive, we are going to start slowing down. I don't want to fly on one engine and be forced to, you know, have the gear down and the engine running at maximum continuous just to keep our speed. That's the type of situation that we do not want to get into now. But overall should be straightforward. Well, let's go another couple of degrees left here. Just to make sure we intercept on time. TAM 3901, are you ready to copy?
TAM 3901, ready to copy.
TAM 3901, we have one engine failure. Souls on board 147, fuel on board 3,200 kilograms, which equals 1 flight hour. Our intention is a normal landing and we need the emergency services on standby.
TAM 3901.
Okay, flaps 1.
Power on 127.15.
12715, TAM 3901, see ya. Note that
3901, emergency services will be on standby for your arrival at Kangan House. Continue your approach for runway 17 right.
continuing the approach, and we'll call the tower on 12715 now, TAM 3901. Lockstar. Glide slope alive. Congonia's Tower, TAM 3901, established ILS 17 right. Flaps 2. Speed checked, flaps 2, and remove status.
3901, Sao Paulo Tower, roger.
Lock.
TAM 3901, number 2, behind the TAM A320 on a 5-mile final, runway 17 right, winds 150 at 10, clear to
Blast
land.
of star. Runway 17 right, clear to land, TAM 3901. Okay, go around altitude 6000 set, gear down. Flaps 3, speed check, flaps 3, and flaps full. Speed check, flaps full. Landing checklist, ECA memo, landing no blue, landing checklist complete. Glide slope. Alright, so far so easy. Then let's go ahead and take over manually. Okay, it's a little annoying that we are required to do manual landing here for landing performance reasons. But if we have to, then we have to. After all, that's what we are training for. Of course, we could have considered just diverting to Garulhos and then using the full automation over there, but the weather isn't too bad, so I see no reason to do that for the time being. So, nice and stabilized. Just like it should be. Looks like the FMS can't decide on our go-around track if you have a look at the nav display. But that shall not be our problem for now. Okay, going through 1000, we are fully stabilized. So at 200 feet I'll call for you to center the rudder trim.
7 right. 1009.
Actually tell you what, let's center it now already. The advantage of centering the rudder trim early is that you have plenty of time to get used to the way that your aircraft behaves. Don't just center it in the flare. That is quite the assurance that you are gonna mess it up if you center the trim in the flare with an engine out. Checked. Land.
300. Minimum.
Continue.
200.
So we're on the puppies here. Disregard.
50, 40, 30, 20. Retard. Drive.
Speed breakup. Thrust reverse normal. Respectively spoilers reverse green.
900 meters remaining.
70 knots. Alright, and here we are. Manual brakes. So, that was easy. Let's go ahead and vacate, and once we are completely off the runway...
Exit at hotel if able. Contact ground on 121.9er.
121.9er, TUM 3901. Alright, we'll just stop here for a second.
Traffic.
You should be disabled below that. No comment. Okay, so let's do the after landing stuff real quick. Yeah, the mode selector can go off for now. APU is running anyway. And we'll turn the ELEC hydraulic pump on for taxiing. Normally you would do single engine taxiing on the other engine, but I see no problem doing it on this one as well. Okay, after landing checklist. Radar and predictive wind shear off, after landing checklist complete. Well then. Ground was on 1219er. Good. Come on, switch it. Sao Paulo ground, TAM 3901, request taxi to the gate.
TAM 3901, taxi to apron 3 gate 21 via Mike Whiskey. Good day.
Gate 21, Mike Whiskey, TAM 3901. Okay. So that's off to the left here via taxi line Whiskey. Then let's go.
Muito obrigado por escolher o plantão. Para sua segurança, pedimos que permaneçam sentados até que o aviso de trânsito seja apagado.
Come on, the brake is off, is it?
Os compartimentos superiores,
Yes, it is.
eles podem ter se movimentado durante o voo. Para sua segurança e dos demais passageiros.
We need a lot of thrust here to make it move. I guess the 2,500 feet elevation are showing. Maximum wingspan. No, actually taxi slowly, maximum 15 knots. Okay, can do that, no problem. So, looking for gate 21.
Thank you for choosing to fly away with for safety, please. Remain seated until the
No follow me needed, handling by LATAM. Alright, and there is our gate.
For your own safety and the other passengers, use both hands when removing your luggage. As it is parked, make sure to
Okay, our lights off.
with you and please do not leave any residents inside your craft. You can now use your
So, I think we flew it well enough that the passengers wouldn't even have noticed the engine failure.
TAM 30901. Taxi to parking. Via
Man.
Angel, Lima, Mike.
I promise,
Whiskey.
I didn't plan this. I really didn't.
Mike, Whiskey, TAM 30901.
But I think I have a theory as to why this happened, but we'll talk about that in a couple of moments. For now, let's get the aircraft parked. So, the Marshal is in sight. I think we're going slightly uphill. That's probably the reason why it rolled so badly. If you bleed on. And here we are. Okay. Parking brake set, bleed us on, and shut down. Cabin crew, all doors in park. Okay then. So here we are. Deboarding is requested. Both engines have run down, beacon off, and they're disarming the slides now. Fantastic. Seatbelt sign off, external power on, hydraulic pump off, and then we can switch the APU off as well. Parking checklist, parking brake up chocks. Well, brake set. Or I'll tell you what, the chocks are in by now, so brakes released. Engines off, wing light off, fuel pumps off, parking checklist complete.
TAM 3034 ready to taxi.
Alright, so Squawk Machine 2000 and standby, and yeah, with that let's take a moment to talk about what has likely happened to that engine. And I think I have a theory over here, which is related to the fact that just prior to this flight, I have changed my joystick assignments. You've probably noticed that on any previous flight I've done, I never used the Wing Airbus throttle to control the engine start levers. And that may have backfired. I did just assign them prior to this flight, and what happened here was that the moment I looked down, you'll remember the ECAM was a little strange there. It never asked me to put the thrust levers in idle or the engine master lever for the failed engine off. Normally the ECAM should ask that. I guess that the reason why it didn't ask that was that something went wrong with my control assignment and it probably switched that engine master lever off all on its own. And that was probably the reason why the engine went down. However, what's strange here is that normally what should have happened afterwards is that the engine should have restarted the moment we put the mode selector into ignition start. Now, that would, however, require the engine start lever to be in the run position, respectively on, which it wasn't, because something has probably been wrong with my assignments. And yeah, I guess that is what happened here. Not 100% sure, but it's my best theory. Now a question for you guys. Why is the door not open when the people are walking through it? Questions over questions. Well, for now, thank you very much for watching. As always, like, comment and subscribe, and if you really love what I'm doing on this channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next one.